Hello and welcome. This is the Make Love Easy podcast, where we are here to help successful professional men create the love, sex, romance, dates, relationships, intimacy that they truly desire through completing the internal work to have their next relationship be the best of their entire life. I have the great privilege, pleasure, and honor of welcoming to our stage the illustrious sex educator and coach and business owner, Melissa. Welcome.
Ooh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So just tell us your story, your journey. How did you become an expert in this field?
It's funny that you say expert because I would never put that in the title because I put so much, I'm such an ally for people really discovering their own truth and their own path and really what works for them. But yeah, I've been in this field many years. I have a background in clinical hypnotherapy, transpersonal hypnotherapy. I went to SFISI in San Francisco, which anyone that knows what that is, that's San Francisco Sex Information. So it's a few nurses in the 70s started it. And so it's a really great program for people that want to get into, sex education on any level. And then once I was done with that, I wasn't sure, was I going to have a podcast? Was I going to have a shop? What was I going to do in sex and relationships? And just the breadcrumbs kind of led me to start studying somatics. And I studied with a Canadian school. There's a few of them around the world, and it's somatic sex education. So instead of talking about concepts in our mind or coaching people through them, which can be powerful as well, we actually get into, how does this stuff actually show up in the body, and using the body to actually process and move it, and not putting aside any erotic energy. So we actually include erotic energy. We welcome it in the space. We use pleasure as a vehicle. And it's a very experiential way to kind of help people get closer to their truth, to unlocking and dissolving trauma, to really, experiencing more pleasure and joy in their life and in their bodies. So that's the nutshell. So I graduated from that about 6 years ago. And then once I was done with that school, I knew that I just needed more mentoring, or I just wanted that, which I think that's what makes me kind of a badass, is that I have years of mentorship underneath my belt. And I seek out those that just know a lot more than me and maybe are very wise in their bodies as well. And I also work with cohorts. I have a couple professional teams, the Apollo Project and Back to the Body, as well as my own friend group. And I think that's really important with honing the skills and getting experience and learning new ways to really navigate and help your clients. So that's what makes me an expert.
I love it. And thanks for humoring the title of expert. That's what I see you as, and that's why you're here in my mind.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
And as a good expert, you're always still learning and growing, which I deeply appreciate as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what is it men need to know? And I know probably this is your whole career.
Yeah.
Just
slow down. No. I think
it's something they could practice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things. I guess it depends on your cultural background. But in general, I think giving men permission to really feel their emotions, to be sensitive, to ask for things that they want with integrity and clarity. Those are some pretty solid places to start. And also not trying to compartmentalize themselves of like, this is how masculinity looks, this is how it should show up, but really identifying like who they are as a person, which sometimes takes years to figure that out.
Yeah. I'm thinking of one person in my community who deals with performance anxiety and also like sexual shame and this mindset of like comparison and being surrounded by people who seem to be getting, quote unquote, getting laid more than he is. And a lot of like self-judgment tossed on top of that, like what's wrong with me, and that flavor. And I'm curious, like, what would you say to someone like that? What would you offer them to shift? Or
yeah, comparison is a beast, isn't it? Yeah, interesting. Good question. What would I do if they were in my studio right now? I think it would be more about bringing it back to them. Like, what do they actually want? How does pleasure move in their bodies? How do they want to connect with their partners? Because I find in my clients and also just in the people that I'm attracted to, I'm attracted to their certainty in themselves, or at least the deep practice of knowing themselves. So it's almost like a layer of confidence. It's not arrogance, but it's like just a knowing. And when you know yourself really well, or you're on the path in that way, you kind of sit differently. You sit behind your cock. You're not always like searching and looking and like, I got to make it happen. There's just a different energy there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What I'm hearing, so there was a phrase that I picked up and made sure to take note of in your articulation of your journey: wisdom wise in their bodies.
Yeah.
And that plus this notion we sometimes toss around in this podcast is the intelligence of the cock. Like there's a harmonious integration of those two that I think, I would imagine, you help people attain or achieve.
Yeah.
And sitting behind their cock as well, not being sort of like Peter O'Toole said in the Casanova miniseries, driven by this bloody blasted thing.
Yeah, which can be really beautiful if we're all consenting to it and that's what we want, the fire but I mean, if you're searching and just trying to fill this void versus like just really sitting back and like, it's just the power versus force,
Yeah. So
yeah.
In that, I'm curious what you would suggest to cultivate that sexual power. Like I imagine self-pleasure, having a practice where you're filled up to overflow before you even approach someone you're attracted to.
Absolutely. Self-pleasure and just, there's all kinds of morning practices that someone can do, like it's Tai Chi, or maybe it's running, or maybe it's like a combination of things, but really knowing yourself and your body and how it moves. I work with a lot of clients that hold their energy like in their throat, or it's stuck in their pelvis, or they're super quiet because that's what they've been conditioned to do, which is natural. A lot of self-pleasure that we do as children, it doesn't really change very much into adulthood. And so we have these old patterns that as men, I'm just going to talk about cis men right now, they have generally these patterns. And so it's up to them if they want to explore, being really good lovers and showing up for women differently, of like, what is their actual self-pleasure and how connected are they in their bodies? And sometimes that takes deep, deep practice. And so what better way to use your self-pleasure practice is rewiring this stuff. And so, instead of like holding it in the throat or in the pelvis, or like having it be just a few seconds, like practicing really moving the pleasure in your body and letting your voice out and letting your pleasure move and be felt. That alone can just have you at rest and at ease in your body better than,
Yeah. What I'm really present to in your speaking is this holistic, authentic, easeful, like I'm on a trip, and that trip is my engagement with the pleasure in my body. And as I'm on that trip, occasionally I will invite other people into it. And so my expression will be so much more resonant because it's a fountain bubbling up and overflowing from me, through me. It's not something that I'm trying to consciously direct or force to achieve something. And it strikes me that an external partner is really a nice bonus to a fully flowered sexual self-expression.
Yeah, it's like when you join a band or when you're playing an instrument, like you can do some beautiful things, and you should be able to really play and let it fly and experience things. And then once you get with other musicians, like, oh, how does this sound when we all groove together? What's that alchemy?
And like what's implied in that is you can play on your own, or you can be in a duet, or obviously what you most want is to be in a band with multiple players at once.
I mean, I'm not saying that's the ultimate, but that's definitely available.
That's just me playing with the metaphor. So may I ask you some pointed, curious personal questions about your adventures and journey?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. I'm nervous. When we first sat down, when we first met, I think you mentioned, it was your phrasing, it was like a lover or one of my lovers. or something. I was like, okay, so maybe there's some sort of polyamory in play here. Like I've been an aspirant, like someone intending to practice conscious polyamory for better part of 12 years. And there were massive failures in the beginning, just egregious misinterpretations of agreements and chaos and pain, and then 3 relationships of pain and people pleasing. And now finally, I've settled and grounded into a partnership that really works. And I'm inviting the possibility and choosing to create more people to invite into our duet. And as I've been on that journey, I've looked out at the world and I'm like, you know what? Most people are plugged into the matrix. Most people are programmed with the assumption that sex or relating has to go in a certain way. And it then takes something to either find people who have done the work internally already to align with their unique expression above all and beyond programming, or someone who's not immediately going to react to like, oh, you're wearing a ring, but you're dating people. Like what? So I'm curious if you have any experience with that, or what your opinion or observation around polyamory is. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was listening to your story of, of like pain and suffering and like and misinterpretations. Yeah, that was a lot of my experience as well. I've definitely had successes, and I've also like bitten the dust and hurt people and been just ridiculous. Let's see. Are you asking like what my journey is, my opinions are now? It's definitely changed over the years, I guess. I've dated multiple people. I've had nesting partners. I really love, kind of focusing with someone and then having like some room to say, do things that are outside the box of what we call a successful monogamous relationships. So for example, I like the freedom to have dinner parties, to give affection to people, to go on trips, to even have maybe some level of intimacy. For many years, I really fought to have like many lovers and many things going. But the reality is that I don't know. I don't know if that's like, if I'm really like desiring it as much as I thought I would. I go to play parties. I do play with multiple people sometimes, but I really just like being able to connect and have deep relationships and maybe some level of intimacy. And again, this may change tomorrow. I don't know, but right now I have one partner that I'm pretty steady with, and we don't live together by choice. There's a lot of space. We consider ourselves non-monogamous, but we don't really spend a lot of erotic energy with other people. And I think that's just a choice and a preference at this point, because we're just so full. And we talk about fantasies. There's people in the community that we find super hot and we're attracted to. And we, enjoy snuggles and skate nights and things like that. But as far as like the same, if I had a couple of those going, I don't know if I would have the space for it, but I like the idea of it. I think it's beautiful to be abundant in that way and be supported in your community. But for me, I don't, who knows? It's still out on what I'm going to end up doing, but I love the autonomy. I love living alone. I love living with community, like on the same property, things like that, sharing space. Did that answer your question?
It did. If I were to write the book of your polyamory adventures, it would be quiet dinner parties and snuggly skate nights.
And I just, I had someone in my life that was around for 5 years, and it was very sporadic. He lives outside the country, and so we didn't see each other very much. It was like once every 3-4 years, literally. But it was a lot of like, just support virtually. And, that felt really good too. So, and that kind of has shifted a little bit. So I don't know, there's an ebb and flow. I also have a couple people that I do spend some time with. I wouldn't say it's sexual. There's no penetrative, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, but it's more like cuddles and sensual play and kissing. And that all feels really good. I don't feel like I'm missing out. Where a couple years ago, I probably would have. I was feeling like I was missing out if I wasn't active with a couple people.
I hear that. Yeah, there's an evolution and a growth path always. from my understanding. You used a phrase that I appreciated, nesting partner. What could you go into what that means to you?
To me, it means, someone that you're living with, that you may be combining finances or not, but you're sharing the same roof. Yeah, and I've lived with so many partners over the years since I was, graduated high school. I'm 45 now. So I've had a lot of different partnerships and relationships, and I love spending time with people. But after my last nesting partner relationship, I just really wanted to have my own autonomy. And if something shifted, my whole life wouldn't fall apart, if that makes sense. Not to say that I'm jaded. I just, I'm also a mother of a teenager. So that dynamic is something that I need to nurture and take care of. So I just chose to live by myself. And then my lover can come over, and he does, and he's got some things here, and then he leaves, and then I go to his place, and, and that feels really good right now. Yeah.
I know exactly the feeling.
And it's not like an escalator relationship where there's these, I don't know if your listeners or know about that, but the escalator relationship of where here's the markers of a successful relationship. You start dating, you have sex, you move in together, you buy the house, you have the children, these markers of like, if these don't happen, then this isn't a successful relationship. And I just want to take all that apart and go, we can do what we want. How do we feel? Do we feel supported? Do we feel nurtured? And go with that. And for me, living separately right now really works. I have this beautiful fantasy in the future that I would love to maybe even share the same land, but I do want my own space, because I get grouchy when people don't put things back. It's just, let's just ignore it. Let's just not even go there.
Yeah, I think we're both probably in that category of super independent, strong-willed, stubborn, like our spaces the way that we like them. I tried to have a partner move in with me, and it's not a big enough space. This was a couple years ago, and it was catastrophic. It was like,
yeah, and it's like, why put that stress? But if you can still have that same security and closeness and have it not mean that it's not special still or committed, I think it's beautiful. And there's a lot of people that I work with that are traditionally married, and they've moved out or moved in separate bedrooms in order to create more fire and more eroticism, because Esther Perel and me both agree that monotony is sometimes the killer of eroticism. And so that's one way to just kind of mix it up, is get some space and have it be okay.
You're not the only one to agree with that. There's solid material in many places. Yeah, I look back, and I was definitely on that escalator, subconsciously to a certain extent, with the partner, the breakup with which yielded a book. The book is now in editing. And that was something I hadn't shown a flashlight onto, was how she was acting from really intense programming that after a certain point of intimacy in the partnership, we would have to move in, because that would express the depth of our love and would match the nature of our commitment. And it was really interesting, because as I look back, there's this conflict and chaos even inside of that expression of hers, which was like, 3 months was too soon for me to ask her to marry her, but she said yes. So 7 or 8 months was her time. We have to move in together. And I look back, and it's like, that actually wasn't a good decision. And how would things have gone if we had simply retained our autonomy? And the weight of me being the sole financial, well, I wasn't sole, but I was going to be the primary financial sort of breadwinner for the couple suddenly, which imploded. Like it fell through. She got the vaccine, and then I immediately got, and I'm not saying anything about the vaccine or not, but whatever happened within a week of that happening, I got the sickest I've ever been in my entire life. And my ability to create cash flow went down. So anyway, I didn't mean for this to be a full-on tangent back into memory lane.
That's okay. So it sounds like you went on the escalator and it wasn't really working for you.
Yeah, exactly. So how would you recommend for people who might still be in that frame of escalator, like to deconstruct it or dismantle it?
I would just want to say, sometimes the frame is beautiful and it really works for a lot of people. So if it works for you and you're feeling really good and you're feeling solid, great, go with that. But it's just, it's good to recognize, and this isn't my teaching, so I would recommend people going and Googling stepping off the relationship escalator and looking into Aggie Says and how she writes and teaches it. But essentially, just take a look, how are you when you are living with someone? Are you feeling alive? Are you feeling inspired? Are you feeling, encroached upon? Is that the right word?
Close enough. Yeah.
So, and then just figure out, like, what do you need to feel really safe? What do you need to feel close in your relationship? What do you need? And sometimes people do want a little bit of space, whether it's separate bedrooms. And again, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong, just like humans sometimes need more space, and that is frowned upon in our society, because they say this is what a relationship looks like, and if you're not doing this, this, and this, then something's wrong. And I really strongly disagree with that, and I think that people can create whatever magic that they want.
I love it. Thank you. It sounds like a solid springboard into more freedom.
Yeah.
So this is a more personal question on my part, but I think, especially locally, our people, our men, will be interested, because I'm standing for the maximum amount of freedom and pleasure and joy and exploration. And maybe you could start with Austin and your experience elsewhere as well. Like, how and where to find people who would be open to dating someone who's already in a deeply established and intimate polyamorous partnership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Austin and many big, cities like San Francisco and New York and LA, they all have, like, tantra communities are a good one. There's also play parties, and there's some kind of overlap in some of these communities. So I would just look out and find, like, swingers clubs. And again, like, I just want to say, proceed with caution, because not everyone is going to be your vibe, and it's not, don't throw it all out with the bathwater, but just kind of check out these communities and see who you vibe with. So every play party is going to be different. Every swingers club is going to be different. Every, like, sensual party. I know I throw a lot of events that welcome, adults to gather, and some people, like to hit on other people or just flirt, and let that be okay and welcome. But yeah, check out tantra, swingers, any sex positive groups. That would be a good start.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like the easy way. Let's talk about the hard way.
The hard way. Go out to dinner and hit on people when you don't know that. No, don't hit on strangers.
Is this what you meant by dinner parties earlier?
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Like,
no.
you want to go where people are like, it's appropriate to approach them, because you can really make someone feel very uncomfortable very fast if you're sitting there with your husband and you're like, hey, and they're just confused because they're not a part of the community. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't know about the ethics, and they don't know, they don't know a lot of things. So it's nice to go into a bubble where people just kind of know that generally that this is welcome, and you can at least talk about it.
So I think then, if that's the hard way, then what I've been doing is kind of the middle path, because I find people who are more or less independent and open to growth. And this is what's happened in the past several partnerships. They get attracted to me, and then I'm upfront, like, this is who I am and this is how I am. So if you want to be with me, you're getting on a certain ride that's going this direction. And if you want to go that direction, I'll give you resources and support, without babying or heroing you or rescuing you from your feelings. Like, it will cause you growth. It will spur you to learn things about yourself and maybe have more sex and fun than you would have otherwise. And I don't know, there's something, as a teacher, I guess there's something really fun about that path, and to see the growth in my partner. But the idea of finding somebody who's, like, fully bloomed, blossomed, and mature in a skill set that has them responsible, respectful, available, awake to all this possible here, like, that seems like a very boring shortcut, but also save a lot of time and energy.
Yeah, I mean, you're like the classic saying of your vibe attracts your tribe. I like to use a different word than tribe, but you're going to be attracted to people. They're going to be drawn to you, and it's either going to be really a place of growth and excitement and understanding, or they're just going to be like, yeah, that's not my thing, which has happened to me a bunch. I'll be on the road, I'll teach somewhere, and someone will flirt with me, and I'm really clear and upfront, and I'm disarming and sweet, but some people have backed away and they're like, yeah, I'm looking for my forever one person. And I'm like, yeah, that's beautiful. It's probably not going to be me. Yeah.
Yeah. Respect. Well, in our last 5 minutes or so, I'm curious, like what would you recommend if a man wanted to achieve his full like potency and thriving and flourishing and fulfillment in being sexual and also attracting partners? I think we could end on that.
I mean, I hate to, let me start over. I love to bring it back to men just really knowing themselves deeply, really knowing, like, what do they desire? How does it move in their body? Like, how grounded are they? Do you have healthy habits? How good do you take care of your body, with movement, with food, with what you listen to, with who you hang out with? All of those things can really set men up to attract the right kind of partner and live a rich life. It's really that simple, not simple.
Yeah, that's great. Everything is foreplay, or everything is foreplay to foreplay.
Absolutely. And also, may I also say, is like how you keep your space, how inspired you, and what do you spend your time doing? Are you a writer? Are you a painter? Do you like to play music? It doesn't matter what it is. There's no judgment, but like, how do your creative juices flow outside of your work or what you do for green tickets? Those types of things. That's what really, I think, attracts people to other people, is like, who are you? How do you move through the body? How does pleasure move? Like I said, like, what turns you on outside of just sex? Like, what makes you come alive?
That's truly a gold nugget, because I mean the sacral energy center, variously known as Dantian or Svadhisthana, that same energy is into our abundance, our creative expression, as well as sexuality. So like getting it moving in those other areas, would you say that it has a direct impact on making it available for movement in like sex and connection with intimacy?
Absolutely. And not to say that when you do these other practices too, like, yeah, pay attention to your creative center, how you're spending your time, your food, your lifestyle, but also really focus in on your erotic energy. Do not push it aside, unless of course you want to be a monk, but like, really look at maybe some of the old programs you may be carrying around sex and intimacy, and really work on yourself and how it actually moves in your body. And there's a lot of practices for that, like the Taoist practices with Montauk Chia. Those are very valuable. There's a lot of free stuff online. Self-pleasure practice, a lot of free stuff online. I've got something on my website you can grab for free right now. Like, practice, 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 practice. Yes.
This is beautiful. Well, I just want to thank you for being on. Where can people find you? What are you offering these days that you want?
I'm offering a couple things. I am local to Austin now, so I moved from Southern California to Austin, and I run Body Joy Intimacy School. I personally work with mostly men and women and couples. Actually, let me start over. I usually just work with men and couples. Women do still come to me, but I also work with Back to the Body, which is another program, and I also do the Apollo retreats. And so you can go to the Apollo retreats. You can also go to backtothebody.org or bodyjoy.org and find me there.
Excellent. I can honestly say I've been the Apollo retreats have been on my bucket list for almost a year now, since I found out.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. There's a lot of like men's groups, but we have our own kind of formula where we kind of it's a small group. It's only 8 men, and we go to these beautiful places where there's a chef, and there you can just really down-regulate your system and really focus in on some of these points that we brought up today. And then you go in and you get somatic sex education sessions every single day to loop into what you're actually working on. So it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Elegant. Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Melissa. Please follow her on social media and feel free to share this with your grandmother. I always
Yeah,
joke that,
and your brother and your son.
especially when it's the sex heavy, poly heavy conversations. My grandma, I don't know if she would, but yeah, and feel free to subscribe, comment below. We love you so much. Have such a beautiful day.